What's going on, guys? This is Real Deal Fantasy HQ with your boy LQ back in for another great episode. And today's episode, man, is my playoff running back fades, people. These are guys that I am not trusting when it comes to the playoffs. It is do or die, people. Week 14 is here, people. This is where you don't want to get cute in the playoffs. This is where all decisions need to be made. And at the end of the day, you're out, one game. You know what I mean? It's a one-round knockout. So do not get cute, people. Make these decisions. These are guys that I do not trust based on overall schedule, situation, coming off an injury, etc. So I don't want to waste any more time. So let's get right into the episode. So these are my running back fades for the entire playoffs, people. I mean, it's not just the first round. It's not just the, second round. You might make it past the first round. I am fading them for the entire playoffs, people. I cannot take these chances. I loaded up enough running backs, coming on draft day, and I loaded up on the waiver wire, et cetera, et cetera. Now, we know running backs are hard to come by. There's other running backs out there who have a better schedule, who has a better situation, who's actually popping off where the weather's getting cold. It's harder to tackle these running backs. But these guys have been very wishy-washy all year. These guys have been, showing their ass, putting up duds or not being able to play because of COVID and et cetera, and coming off of COVID and not performing very well. So first up, I want to jump to James Conner. I do not like James Conner situation to begin with. I know, Pittsburgh, they still run the ball very well, but he's a featured back. He's not the RB1. He's not the guy that's going to give you, 100% max touches. So I cannot deal with his shenanigans, with him coming off of COVID. He missed the last 2 games, but the games before that, the games before he even went on the COVID list were not very impressive. Yeah, he had 89 yards in, the last game that he left us off with, but that's only 12 points coming out of an RB2. Some of you may be, happy with that. But let's think about it, man. James Conner is probably on a lot of your benches, but when it comes to these playoffs, man, I need top performers. Now let's look at the matchup. He has Buffalo this week. You're probably thinking, hey, you know what I mean? Buffalo's not, the top of the table where they're able to stop the run. They're in midway of the table where they've been giving up 4.7 yards per carry to running backs. But again, he's not the guy to get max touches. Most of those, games where we saw the running backs get the max touches, or they're their RB1, or they're just simply better than James Conner, we're going to average high, yards per carry. Now, James Conner has Sneal behind him, and also Pittsburgh is spreading the ball around. They want to throw the ball way more. So I don't think you're going to get max touches out of James Conner, being that he's coming back, even though he's a featured back, meaning he's not going to get 100% of snap opportunity. He may be on the field a lot, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to be on the field getting the ball every single play. Because, again, Pittsburgh is airing the ball out there, spreading the ball around, Eric Ebron getting involved, Claypool, Deontay Johnson, and Juju. You have all those targets. You have all those guys that are able to catch the ball when they do, and make big plays in open space. Now, James Conner has some red zone, upside to where he may be the goal line back to get a touchdown here and there, which is also nice. We also want guys to have opportunity, but this is do or die. I cannot put James Conner in my starting lineup and not be worried. I can't have him there and be confident and think that he could put up 15 to 20 points. This is what I want from my RB2. And with this matchup, it may be a good game, actually, Buffalo versus Pittsburgh. I definitely am going to watch this game. This is a game I'm going to watch very closely, as a Josh Allen owner or Deontay Johnson owner, just whoever is on that team. That's going to be a great game to watch. And I mean, at the end of the day, I'm not confident with James Conner at all this entire playoff. So you may be knocked out in the first round and not even make it, to where the matchup is great against Cincinnati. So I'm fading him because, again, I'm not going to just say, maybe in, week 2 of the playoffs, he has a great matchup. You may not even make it to the first, throughout the first round, playing James Conner. You know what I mean? So I can't sit here and say, yeah, he has a favorable matchup in week 2 of the playoffs. Maybe that's when you'll skate through the first round. Maybe you'll get there. And then that will be the time that you load up James Conner because he has a favorable matchup in week 15 against Cincinnati Bengals. So overall, you you strike me once, I'm fading you the entire playoffs because I might not make it. So again, James Conner, I'm not sitting too pretty with him. I don't feel, confident with him in my starting lineups come playoffs. Do or die, people. So next up, Melvin Gordon, man. I am fading him the entire playoffs. I'm definitely fading him for this trap, this setup matchup against the Carolina Panthers, who still continue to struggle against the run. They're at the bottom of the table against the run. I understand Melvin Gordon put up, fantasy relevant points last week, but again, he's been very wishy-washy. I do not have time for wishy-washy. It looks like he puts up points when he's the max touch, RB1 back with Phil Lindsay out with injury, but Phil Lindsay should be back. So again, I can't deal with this in a time like this when it's do or die, people. This is the first round of playoffs. You worked your ass off to get to the dance. You don't want to be left at the door of the dance. You want to bring home the gold, people. So again, I don't have time for wishy-washy. Now, if you look at Melvin Gordon, week 9, he put up 3.7 points against a very favorable matchup against the Atlanta Falcons, people. We know their defense is trash. Then, he comes back again against the Raiders and then puts up what? 4.6 points. Then he blows up against Miami, which is kind of weird because a lot of people had him on the bench. So again, he's at a 58% start rate, according to Sleeper. So it's not like he's a full send every single week. So there's a lot of times where in some of my leagues I sat Melvin Gordon because the matchup looks good, but I just do not trust him. Because again, you have Phil Lindsay still there taking touches as well. So we want our running backs to get max touches at all times. But sometimes that can't, happen because obvious reasons, because of running back committee or whatever it is. But with Melvin Gordon in the playoffs right now, I feel like this is a trap game where he just came off of a week of putting up fantasy relevant points. You know what I mean? Saw some targets out of the backfield, not many. He caught one for 11 yards. And then we're sitting with 15.2 points and we're looking at Melvin Gordon like, hey, thanks, man. Thank you for that. You helped me win my week. I made the playoffs. I got the 6th seed. I'm actually going to the playoffs. Thank you, Melvin Gordon. But let's look at the points he had before that against New Orleans. Yes, I know New Orleans Saints are very tough against the run. They don't allow any rushing yards at all. They don't allow touchdowns. They don't allow nothing. You know what I mean? He put up 3.1 points. That is what bothers me. It's the wishy-washy, it's the, back and forth. Again, I already told you, week 9, week 10 were favorable matchups against the run. And he shit the bed. This is not the time for me to say, oh, Melvin Gordon, let's load up the Jets. You just put up fantasy relevant points last week. Oh, yeah, I need you this week, man. Help me get past the first round. I'm not putting that trust on him. I'm not putting that pressure on myself to make that decision to put Melvin Gordon in any starting lineups in any of my leagues that I'm in the playoffs because, again, I'm fading him the entire playoffs. I don't have time for bullshit. I have other guys on my roster. That's the thing. A lot of people don't understand. The investment on Melvin Gordon might have been high. I understand you probably took him in the 3rd or 4th round, but you were here. You're in the playoffs. So you obviously made some, in-season trades, some pickups off the waivers, or you drafted one of your sleeper guys and they're popping off week to week. You know what I mean? Or you're a guy who picked up James Robinson. Melvin Gordon is not a key factor into your starting lineup. Again, I don't know that. Honestly, I'm just talking shit. I don't know that. I don't know what your roster looks like. I don't know what your situation is. Maybe you're forced to start Melvin Gordon because you're asked out of a Joe Mixon or you're asked out of a Saquon Barkley, a CMC who's dealing with a new injury, etc. The list goes on, people. So again, I don't know your roster, but I'm just telling you my opinion of why I'm fading Melvin Gordon the entire playoffs because I don't have time for his bullshit, people. I just don't. You know what I mean? So again, Phil Lindsay should be returning. I feel like this is a trap game against the Panthers defense who are still struggling, bottom of the table when it comes to stopping the run. This is not a great matchup, people. This is not something that I'm looking forward to have him in my starting lineup for the simple fact he could be the reason why I get knocked out of the playoffs, people. So remember, do or die, people. So next up, man, we have Devin Singletary, man. Oh, man. He is just average, people. He is an average running back. It's nothing wowing. It's nothing great. We kind of wanted him to get max touches. I remember campaigning for Singletary in the offseason, before they drafted Zach Moss, saying it's Singletary's season. But I think we got what we were going to get regardless of who's back there or not. You know what I mean? We've seen Singletary get, roughly max touches and he put up average points. Last week, he had 85% of the snap opportunity being that Zach Moss fumble, and we kind of never see him again. He only put up 11 points of fantasy, you know what I mean, on 18 rushing attempts. He averaged 3.4 yards per carry, and that's not something that I'm very happy about to say that he was in one of my leagues as a starting, RB2. Maybe my flex in one of my other leagues as well. But again, he's 72% owned, people. He's rostered in a lot of people leagues. He's in a lot of people's starting lineups as well. Even though he's like 28% start and sleeper, I know for a fact in most of my leagues that I'm in, every matchup or, every time that I scan through in the league and see what the matchups are, I see Singletary sitting there in that flex position because they're hoping and praying that he could be PPR relevant, hoping that he can get some targets out of the backfield, hoping that he can get some red zone looks, even though we know that belongs to Zach Moss. So that is the key problem here with Singletary overall, as in general of him being an RB2/flex position player for you. So Zach Moss still being involved, and then Zach Moss not involved, we still get average points between Singletary. So his playoff matchup looks horrendous. Round one, this should just be a no-brainer here, man. He's going against Pittsburgh. Again, it should be a great game. I really feel like he's not going to be the guy to put up like 20 points for you or even anywhere near 15 points. So it's like you can't make these decisions based off of like, this is all I got, man. I need this win, man. Maybe Singletary will pop off. There is no maybe in do or die, people. Do not get cute. This is a cute move. This is a cute, position start here with Devin Singletary because, again, just because he put up 11 points and then 10 points the week before that, these are average numbers for a guy that should be putting up way more points to that, being that he is but he is the guy there to be the 1A situation of that running back committee. He's the 1A of that situation where he should be getting targets out of the backfield, not Zach Moss taking, a touchdown here and there being the red zone guy. But they split up very weirdly, you know what I mean? But I think Josh Allen, he leans more so on Zach Moss in the red zone, not Singletary much so. And last game, we kind of were hoping that Singletary can skate in for, one touchdown. You know what I mean? We could have dealt with that, but it did not happen, people. So Pittsburgh round one, and then round two, Denver. So if somehow you make it, past round one with starting Singletary, kudos to you, man. Whoever went off for you to go there. But against Denver, I don't really think that I'm okay with starting Singletary against the Denver defense. You're probably thinking like, oh, they're not what they're used to. But Denver's defense is a tad bit better. They're average, you know what I mean? But against the run, they're still a stud defense, you know what I mean? So I definitely think Singletary is not a guy that I'm wanting in my playoff roster of any weeks, you know what I mean, across the board. Week 16, the championship is New England, you know what I mean? So, again, I don't even think you're going to make it that far with Singletary being a guy that has to be in your lineup, you know what I mean? Because, again, I don't know your roster, and you know what I mean? I still just don't see you realistically winning a championship with Devin Singletary as your guy through any of these weeks. You know what I mean? So he is a full fade all 3 weeks. I don't care if Zach Moss breaks his ankle and you think Devin Singletary will be, getting max touches. We've seen that. We've seen Zach Moss injured, and Singletary has been nothing but underwhelming and just average this entire season. So fade. So this wraps up my episode of running backs that I'm fading through the playoffs, people. These are guys that are not going to get any looks from me. These guys are not going to even possibly be on my roster. I'm probably going to drop Singletary right now. But anyway, it doesn't matter. I am fading these guys. I think you should too. It is do or die, people. Round one, week one of the playoffs are here, people. Do not get cute. Make the right decisions, people. So, hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Make sure you like and subscribe for me, and I'll see you guys next week for another great episode of Real Deal Fantasy HQ with your boy LQ. Peace.